Hi, my name is Candace Barnhart-Johnson. I am your TA, and this is going to be a sample assignment of your evaluation for KTape. So, hi, my name is Candace Barnhart-Johnson. This is Topper. He is my personal horse. Top is 23 years old. He is some form of stock grade something or other. He's probably paint and quarter horse, but beyond that, I don't know. He was, he has kind of a really vague history. As far as we know, he was pulled from a kill pen by a Good Samaritan who thought, you know, he was doing him a favor because he thought he was really beautiful. And of course, Top is really beautiful. He's a very, very pretty horse. But he then brought him home and he spent the next 5 years semi-feral with a bunch of other horses and kind of had to fight for his right to have food, fight for, basically he had to compete for his needs, and he didn't have any one-on-one human interaction. From there, a friend of mine that was an instructor had pulled him from the farm when the man wasn't able to take care of the horses anymore. And her goal was to place him in a 4-H home, and unfortunately he was not even remotely kid safe. He would internalize things that bothered him, and he would seem as though he was tolerating it, and then all of a sudden he would just blow up and it would be violent. So you could not trust him with anybody. You couldn't trust him with a child, and the minute you would put a saddle on him, he would literally start shaking. So needless to say, I offered to take him and give him a home. I had tried to restart him, and every time I did, he just kept telling me no, no, no. And so I listened, and for the better part of 11 years, he's been unridden. I have ridden him, but there's just this vibe that tells me absolutely not, like this is just not for him. In that time, we've done a lot of liberty. And he very much enjoyed jumping, and he was really good at it. You know, it's unfortunate that he had an extremely rough upbringing, because he would have made a really fun hunter pony. So Top is about 14-1. Like I said, stock type, but he's really cute. He would have been really cute under saddle. So most of what we deal with Top is a lot of, he carries a lot of physical tension from things that manifest emotionally. He holds everything so very close to himself, mentally and emotionally, and it shows in his body. He does have some damage just behind his shoulder, his left shoulder here, from wearing a saddle that was incredibly small. And fitting him very, very incorrectly. I have a feeling that he may have also at one time been trained as a cow horse, cutting, roping, that kind of stuff, just because of the way that he acts with some horses. He's very cowy, which is really cool when you want it and terrifying when you don't. So today what I'm going to do is go through a real quick evaluation with him so that you can see him move. I probably won't get him to canter because, I mean, unless I have a stick with me, it's probably not going to happen. And I don't want to upset him either. I don't want to drive him around too much and upset him because he just had a CST session. So we're going to show you a little bit of movement, and then we're going to go into physical palpation, and then I'll show you what I'll do to tape him today. He's a good boy. Yeah, I think we will go and should be able to pick up in the camera if I take him out here. Come on, bud. So for the most part, Top actually carries a really nice posture for a stock type horse. He is downhill, but he can carry himself uphill with a little bit of work. Now, he hasn't been in work recently, so we're getting back to things. What I'm noticing is he is tracking up pretty nicely, although the right hind is not tracking up as much as the left hind. He's a little apprehensive to walk forward, but then again, he's also on a relatively short line. And the other thing that I'm noticing is that he has got a relatively flat croup, and it's very short. That is confirmation on him. He's very, very short from dock to sacrum. See if we can change directions here, walk this direction. Not as willing to walk this side. Didn't change his stride a whole lot, it's just he's not as willing to go forward. And then if I can ask him to trot. Boy. Kind of short-lived. Good boy. Boy. He's really pulling on the rope, so that tells me he's not balanced. Granted, again, it's also a relatively short rope, so that's part of it. But that walk is getting a lot better. Okay. Hold this set. Hold it. Trot. Trot. Okay, so trot's a lot nicer, or it was a lot nicer. There we go. Trot's a little bit nicer on this side. He is lifting his back, but it is kind of hard for him to bend on this small circle. Good boy, good boy. Boy. Okay. So Top is very out of shape. Like I said, he is 23, and unfortunately, just life has kind of gotten ahead of us, and I haven't been able to keep him in consistent work. He does, however, live 24/7 outside with 5 other horses. Half of those horses are youngsters under the age of 10, and then the other half are all over 20. So, including him. He gets a lot of physical activity, and in general, we deal with a little bit of hind end stiffness. He may have arthritis in his hocks, although it's never been confirmed specifically. And conformation-wise, he does actually have a tendency to splay out in front from the fetlock out, or from the fetlock down. And he's very base narrow naturally. So coming down from the shoulder, the limbs go very, very narrow. naturally, and it's very difficult for him to stand straight. In the hind, he can stand straight, but he has a tendency to stand very base narrow, and with the hock well underneath of him, as opposed to, you know, just straight up and down underneath. Almost sickle hocked, but he's not sickle hocked. It just sort of looks like that. You could almost imagine, like, if the horse was standing on a pedestal, how their legs would come in order to stand on that surface, is kind of how he stands on an everyday basis. It's really rare to see him stand with his limbs straight down. And I know that it's compensation, and I know that it has a lot to do with his sacrum and with his haunches. It's just unfortunate that he's built the way that he is. But yeah, that is one of the areas that we deal with most. So I'm going to go ahead and get into physical palpation. Now, like I said earlier, he did have CST done, so he may be a little bit less stiff than he was earlier. So overall, you know, he is a little bit puffy here from allergies. He's not weepy, so that's good. I don't hear any abnormal respiratory sounds. The set of his jaw is nice. No underbite or overbite. No hooks. He does have some plaque buildup on his tusks, his lower tusks, so that will get removed here when he gets his teeth floated. They'll get them floated here in October. His gum color's nice. Capillary refill's good. If I can grab a little bit of skin here. Hydration's good. Now, Top has a tendency to carry his head very low, but when he does raise it, you can see that the brachiocephalic muscle is overdeveloped. That's because he has a tendency to kind of pull himself along in his trot. Very rarely does he move nice and round anymore. He did when he was younger. However, as he's gotten to about 20, he started to lose, well, unfortunately, he started to lose a lot of physical fitness, and a lot of that's my fault. The serratus here is a little underdeveloped, but not too bad. He still has a nice round appearance to his neck. You know, no significant atrophy anywhere. Nice, well-developed shoulder, well-developed chest. No response in the forearm. No response here at the girth or through his rib cage. Nothing through his back. Although there's a little spot here on the right lumbar coming back through the flank. His glutes are underdeveloped. There's a little bit of atrophy. No response to palpation of the stifle or of the gaskin. Nothing at the hock. Semitendinosus and severimembranosus feel normal, if maybe a little overdeveloped. And again, like I said, it's a whole lot of compensation that he does. Same thing on this side, there's a little bit of overdevelopment on the lower end of the, or superior portion of the brachiocephalic muscle. And here the serratus is just a little bit underdeveloped, but no significant tension to note it anywhere. I'm coming through here to the chest. again in the shoulder and forearm, nothing specific to note. Nothing here through longissimus. Although, like I said, there was a small area that he was responsive to, although he's not being responsive to it now. Nothing through the ribs or through the girth. Again, noting that there is atrophy at the glute. No response here at the stifle. Let's see if I can, if messing with his tail off balances him at all. There's nothing going on there. I'm going to move him here to the side, like we do with legs. Good man. So he has put himself back in this base narrow stance that he has a tendency to want to do. I'm going to ask that he pick up this leg here. So he's got full range of motion. There is no hesitation at the knee. No resistance, no clicking. There's a little bit of resistance at the fetlock, but not bad. You know, no clicking, no significant, anything significant to note. However, he's not super interested in extension. So a little bit of loss of range of motion, but then again, he does have a pretty upright shoulder. So that could be just the edge of his range of motion. Good boy. A little hesitant to extend, but not bad. We're going to press the hop and stifle. There's quite a bit of resistance in doing so. And then extension forward, which he seems to be able to do, but he's very heavy in my hand. He seems a little unstable. Step him forward here a minute. Boy. I'm gonna bring this front leg up. Same thing here, there's no resistance to the knee, no clicking, it's not floppy. This fetlock, however, is very, very stiff. There's very little play in it, very little movement, but no clicking. And he seems very unstable with extension. Not very good, not a whole lot of good extension here. He's very much having a hard time balancing. Now we're going to ask for this hind leg. I'm also going to ask that he extends a little bit, which he doesn't seem very interested in doing. Seems kind of challenging for him. Press the hop and the stifle. He's very, very unbalanced, very unsteady, kind of leaning on me. And extending forward, also very unbalanced and leaning on me. He's actually kind of really pulling a lot on my hand. I know. Okay. So I'm going to turn him around and I'm going to show you the area I was talking about earlier on his shoulder. So I'm not quite sure if it'll pick up on the camera. Maybe if I block the light here it will. Okay, so you may be able to see here at his shoulder. Hang on, bud. Let's see if we can get into the camera just a little more. we go. Good man. Okay, so if you can see right here, the back edge of his left scapula, he has a lot of pressure sores. He came to me like this, and he actually had a lot of scar tissue that did not have hair at this one. Some of the hair did grow back, and he also has some areas from pressure sores on his wither right here. Come on, honey, step up. Oh boy. And initially when I tried working with him, he wanted absolutely nothing to do with a rigid saddle. And so I spent a lot of time with bareback pads on him. Again, not riding him, but having him carry a bareback pad. He does not have atrophy here at the time. At the time I'm looking at it, there's not really any atrophy. However, this is something that he has dealt with a lot. He has a tendency to lose muscle tone and health, especially at this left shoulder. So that is something that I'm really cognizant of with him. And from time to time, I do tape him through his back and pay very close attention to this area to make sure that that muscle is supported. However, today, because of the palpation and because of how he's moving, and because of the fact that he does have a lot of atrophy here at the glutes, I'm going to go ahead and tape him for his glutes. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and hopefully he will stand right here for me. Sorry, just bear with me. Just getting my tools ready. Okay, I'm going to take and do a Y shape with 4-inch tape. I'm going to lay it here, probably about mid-sacrum, over top of the glute, and then it's going to travel down over the point of the hip, over the head of submembranosus, and then the biceps femoris. I'm just getting an idea of how long my tape needs to be. I'm going to go ahead and cut 2 sections because I'm going to need that for both sides. I'll see if he'll let me use his back here. Bless the good ponies, right? All right, I'm gonna go ahead and put this away. I want to cut that in half, so now that's the size I need for both sides. And typically I don't have a hard time with the tape pulling up on him. He's also not going to wear any blankets or anything, so I'm not going to round the edges. I'm just going to cut that Y shape. And depending on him, I may or may not may or may not go ahead and put anchors on this. It just sort of depends on him. Usually when I tape him, it doesn't pull up on him very easily. So I may not go ahead and put anchors on, because I'm kind of looking at it as this is going to be a proprioceptive sort of tape as well as support. So I'm going to go ahead and lay this down roughly where I would like it. There's a little bit of an anchor going here. I'm going to put about 50% stretch. And before I go and lay down the rest of this part of the tape, I'm going to do the other side. So I can get that about as even as possible. Try to judge where that part left off there. Put about 50% stretch in it. Okay. And I'm going to take the tails and run this along these back muscles here. Semitendinosus and semimembranosus to help support those glutes. And try to get that as symmetrical as possible. Also 50% stretch. 25 to 50% stretch with no stretch at the end. You're being such a good boy, Top. Okay, so I'm going to ask him if he can stand so that you can see this. Good boy. Okay. So there we go. Now I'm going to choose not to put anchors on this, and the reason is because I want it to be more proprioceptive. Top has a tendency to be a very sensitive horse and very sensitive skin, so I don't want to overwhelm him with too much tape. And also, he doesn't usually have a difficult time with tape coming up, so I think that this will be good for what he needs today. And thank you for watching.